Hello, everybody. My name is Eric Gerard, and I'm the CEO of Gerard Training Solutions. We are a consulting firm that focuses on helping new managers transform from being great individual contributors to outstanding people managers. So that's all I do. And with me today is my producer, Bernie. Bernie, say hello.
Hi, everybody.
So Bernie and I will be talking to each other as we transition back and forth from breakout rooms and so on. So I just wanted you to know who the team was. Okay, so I am interested to know where you are joining from. So go ahead and chat in. Just go ahead and use chat because I realize some of you want to stay off camera. But chat in, where are you today? Where are you joining from? And I'm really glad that you are coming regardless of where you are. Okay, Janet's in Idaho. Thank you. Seattle. Hey, Angie, I'm in Poulsbo. Janet's in Phoenix. I was in Phoenix yesterday, Janet. I was at the Phoenician.
So rough.
It was very difficult. Yes. Actually, the prices were rough. A cup of coffee was $5. It was pretty
I
crazy.
bet it was still over 100 degrees too, right at the Phoenician with the floating river.
It was 103 at the low end, and when I showed up on Sunday, it was 107. It was crazy.
Oh, yuck.
So and I was wearing a suit the whole time, so I stayed indoors. Thank you very much. All right, good deal. So we got folks from Maryland. Excellent. Well, this is exciting. Here comes Judy Thompson. Okay, let's jump in and let me share my screen and we will get things going here.
And you're recording, right, Eric?
Absolutely. So this will be available to review later on.
So I should put myself on mute.
Up to you.
I will. I'm teasing.
Up to you. I mean, this may be viewed by dozens of people. You just never know. Okay, so I always like to start with some guidelines. I like to suggest some guidelines for how we will continue or how we will move through the process today. So cameos are cool. If you've got a kid or a cat that wants to be in your lap, no problem. Please participate fully. This is for you, so try not to multitask. A stranger is a friend you have not met yet. Have a beginner's mind when it comes to coaching and feedback. Let's have some fun. I think I've already started to set that tone. Show up and be vulnerable. Give it a shot. Try something new. So I'm gonna introduce a couple of different models. Give it a hoy and see what you think. And then finally, experiment. This is a lab, and one of the things I always like to do is to mention that the Las Vegas rule applies here. So what happens in Las Vegas stays in Las Vegas. What happens in the power session stays in the power session. We won't repeat it outside. All right. With that, starting with a quote from Lee Corso. Lee is an American sports broadcaster and football analyst for ESPN and a former coach. And he says that coaching's not a job, it's a privilege. So I think that that is a great way to start off. Let me ask you a couple of questions. What do you think of when you hear the term coaching? You can either come off mute and answer or go ahead and chat in. But when you think of coaching, what do you think of? I've given you some prompts, but what else do you think of when you think of coaching? It's ongoing? Yeah, absolutely. So it's not just a one-time thing. Thanks, Angie. Other thoughts? Open-ended questions. Yes, thank you, Judy. One more? Motivation, encouragement. Yeah, absolutely. So we coach to do several different things. Yeah, Paul says helping others see possibilities. Bernie, by the way, just dropped in your participant guide. So you will find everything that's on the slides in the participant guide. So please download that. It's a fillable PDF, so you can go ahead and fill it in without having to print it and handwrite. And Janet says playing off our strengths. So the reason why we coach could be vast. There could be many, many reasons, but mainly we talk about doing this to develop an employee, whether they're doing well or not. We want to develop them and make them better, to discuss poor performance and to motivate a good performer to achieve even more. So let's talk a little bit about when we coach an employee. So we talk about, coaching an employee when they're doing well and when they have a performance problem and in formal and informal settings. But I have a question for you. What conditions must exist for successful coaching? Again, please come off mute or chat in. Trust. Absolutely. Thanks, Angie. What else? Well, let's riff off trust because that seems to be the big one everybody's agreeing with. So let's riff off trust. How do we create trust in a coaching situation? Go ahead and chat in. You can tell my style is very interactive. Yeah. Okay. Do what you say you will do. Show the employee that you hear them. Lead with empathy in the talk. Absolutely. And in addition to what you're saying, I will build on that and say make sure to coach people in private. Please don't do coaching in public. I got coached, quote, coached in public once in a crowded break room by a manager who essentially threatened my job during the coaching session, and it was so bad on so many levels. So don't do that. Coach in private, praise progress, and make sure to provide balanced coaching or balanced feedback. Here is what we are going to do in this power packed hour. By the end of this module, you should be able to use the GROW model to coach your team members. You'll also be able to use the SBI model to provide great feedback. And then you'll create a plan to coach and provide feedback for your team. And the session is super simple. We'll start with coaching, then we'll move on to feedback. Then you will go ahead and make a plan and make a coffee date. So back into the content, um, the most important skills for being a great coach are listening and asking questions. So from your experience, what does it mean to be a good listener in a coaching situation? Please go ahead and chat in or come off mute. Again, the question is, what do we mean by listening in a coaching situation? Janet says, ask open-ended questions. Yeah. What else? Do not interrupt and show respect for communication. Repeat back to the individual what you are hearing. Yeah, absolutely. Anything else? Be comfortable with silence. Yep, absolutely. My next question is, why is it important to listen well in a coaching situation? Why am I making a point of this? Everyone needs to feel heard and understood. Absolutely. Thanks, Janet. And what are some things that a good listener does? Yeah, you can identify and understand. Yep. What else? What else does a good listener do? Non-judgment. Yes, they don't judge. Eye contact. Thanks, Paul. Keep eye contact, allow silences, have open body language. Yes, absolutely. Okay, beautiful. So let's dive in deep into listening techniques. So the listening techniques that I'm going to suggest to you are reassuring, restating and paraphrasing, summarizing, clarifying content, what we're going to talk about, clarifying process, how we're going to have the conversation, and showing empathy. So just for fun, how would you demonstrate reassuring behavior? So, Janet Park, how would you demonstrate reassuring behavior? You can come off chat or come off mute or chat in. Okay. Janet Mancini says nod.
I-
Yeah.
that that was what I was going to say.
You would get, okay, great. What else can you do to demonstrate reassuring behavior?
Keep a neutral face.
Yeah, keep a neutral face, don't frown. Yeah, it's really funny. My daughters were just telling me this early last week. They're like, "Dad, your eyebrows go all over the place." I'm like,
Oh,
"I know, I can't help it. My eyebrows do whatever the heck they want, and I have no control over them. They
yes, you
do
do,
they,
Eric. You can keep those puppies. Let's try it right now. Raise your eyebrows. See, you can do
yeah, but when I'm not thinking about it, one will creep up and just do all kinds of goofy stuff. So, um, yeah. So do your best to keep a neutral face. Do your best, unless you have sentient eyebrows. What's the purpose of summarizing during a discussion versus just at the end? Why would we summarize as we go?
You might get off track unless you do it along the way and go down a path you don't want to go down. So make sure you interject with summarizations throughout the conversation just to clarify, right?
Yeah,
Because you could
absolutely.
be thinking you get it and then you go down a path and the conversation is not going to be effective.
You got it. Yeah, absolutely. Paul says to leave ego and emotion out. Judy says to ensure mutual understanding. Absolutely. And then my favorite question here, and Akil, I'm going to encourage you to come off mute and talk to me here for a second. Why is it important to show empathy when you're coaching? No, Akil's not going to do it. Okay. Anybody else want to jump in? Why is empathy so important? Janet, yeah, Paul says gives reassurance. Absolutely. So empathy is so important that I decided to make that the first chapter of my book. And so I really believe that empathy is a key skill for managers, whether you're a new manager or an experienced manager. Building your empathy muscles is huge. All right, transitioning now to coaching, questioning. Excuse me, we were talking about coaching. Questioning. I always love to talk about open-ended questions. So if you think about the journalistic six, who, what, when, where, why, how much, how many, these are great questions that can open up a conversation. Also, there's a fantastic book that I highly recommend. It's called The Coaching Habit. It's by a guy named Michael Bungay Stanier. And the subtitle is Say Less, Ask More, and Change the Way You Lead Forever. So The Coaching Habit is a fantastic book. And Michael talks about 7 specific questions you can use to really open up a coaching session. What do you think the benefits are of asking questions during coaching? Janet Park, what do you think?
It makes it a dialogue rather than me as the manager talking at them.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Paul says clarification to confirm knowledge and understanding of the employee's concerns. Yeah, beautiful. Any other thoughts? Right. Prompt self-reflection and introspection. Yeah. So coaching is not about you talking at the coachee. It's about the coachee discovering for themselves what's going on, how things are now, and what they might do to change the situation. And you become a facilitator of that rather than the dispenser of knowledge. So kind of keep that in mind as we move along. Other questions that you can use in a coaching situation include closed-ended questions. Closed-ended questions aren't necessarily bad, just don't rely on them. So rely on the open-ended questions, but closed-ended questions are great for confirmation. They're fantastic for confirming whether or not the person understood something or not. And then my favorite question is the probing question. And this is something where the coaching habit will go really deep in those 7 questions that Michael talks about. This is where you get more detail. What is it about blank that interests you? Or if X was to occur, what would it do for you? Or Paul says, tell me more. Yeah, absolutely. Beautiful. Well, here's the model that I absolutely love to use for coaching. It's called the GROW model, and GROW stands for goal, reality, options, and way forward. And if you take a look at page 3 in your participant guide, you'll have in-depth information for this. This is not a linear model. Notice that there aren't any arrows taking you from one section to the next. So you can start out with goal. What do you want to talk about during this session? And then reality. How are things now? And then options. What could you do, or what have you already tried? And then during options, you realize, whoops, our goal is catawampus. We need to go back and try that again. And so then you can go back to goal or go back to reality. So there is no linearity to the model. I mean, it makes sense to start from G to R to O to W, but you can move around inside the model. So this is a really simple model. We just focus on goal, reality, options, and way forward. What will you do? How will you move forward? And the model is so simple that you now know everything you need between what I've just said and what's on page 3 of your guide, that you get a chance now to try the model. So I'm going to give you some micro practice. And what we'll do is I'll have Bernie put you into pairs, and there may be an odd trio, which is fine. So the way this works is we'll have a manager and employee. The manager will be conducting the coaching session. The employee will be the coachee. And I'll have you practice the GROW model using the content we just covered, plus participant guide, page 3. The activity instructions are on page 4 of your guide. So Bernie, if you could please pop folks into pairs, if we've got that, or an odd trio is fine. Each person gets 5 minutes to be the coach and use the model. You can choose any scenario you like. I'm not going to assign a scenario. So you decide what you want to talk about. So it can be work related or non-work related. It does not matter to me. I am not going to come into your breakout rooms. So this conversation is between the two of you only. So you'll have 10 minutes in the activity, and then we'll bring it back and we'll debrief. Okay.
Hey,
Any
quick question,
questions about-
Eric.
Sorry?
Sorry. Really quick question, and maybe I missed it. Can you just summarize quickly what reality means in your GROW model?
Yeah. So, okay. Goals are what do you want to talk about? Reality is how are things now? So what's going on right now for you in this
Okay.
situation? And then options are what have you tried, or what could you try to make things different? And then way forward, or will, is what will you do differently to move ahead? So what's your action plan? Does that help?
Awesome. Thank you. Yeah. Awesome. Thanks for the clarification.
Yeah, sure. And all of this is on pages 3 and 4 in your guide. Bernie, just to be sure, can you drop the guide in chat again?
Yeah.
Beautiful. Thank you, sir. All right. Excellent. So with that, let's go ahead, Bernie, and divide them up into pairs or the odd trio. And let's set a timer for 10 minutes with a reminder at 5 to switch.
All right, ready to rock and roll. 10 minutes on the clock. Opening the rooms now.
All right. Thank you. All right. The janitor here. Paul is here. Akil is here. Okay. So what did you notice about trying the GROW model? So I gave you just a little bit of a setup, and then I threw you into an opportunity to try it. So what was your experience like? Akil, let's start with you. I haven't heard from you. So let's start with you.
Well, our conversation worked out well. I mean, it seemed, let's say it fit. It seemed to make a good fit.
It seemed to be a good fit.
Yeah.
Excellent. Good deal. Okay. Thank you. Paul, how about you? What was your experience like using the GROW model?
Thanks. I was with Akil, and I think we did have a good conversation. It was a little slow start because of the hypothetical, but anyway, we got into it and tried to talk about where he stands right now. I was the coach, and looking at the goals that he's been assigned and or assigned himself, what's happening right now, talked about that, identified some of the things that were getting in the way. And then the opportunities, we discussed a little bit, and it was close to time when we got to the way forward, so we didn't get to the W part. But we did look at GRO, and I think identified a way forward with some of the concerns that Akil had. We just didn't get to it.
Okay, well, that's all right. I mean, you'll, as you practice this, obviously this is a skill you've got to practice. I don't expect that you've nailed this down. So there's a model that I use in my work called the 70-20-10 model that you might have heard of, where 70% of your learning happens on the job, 20% happens through coaching and mentoring, 10% happens in formal settings like this. So it's really incumbent on you to take what you're learning here, take that participant guide and go practice it and do it on the job in order to embed these skills and behaviors. So you'll figure out how long it takes to have a coaching conversation. You'll get good at this via practice. Janet Park, how about you? Janet, you're on mute. Oh, Janet has walked away. Okay. Janet Mancini. There you are.
I just kind of had to come in late, so I will defer my discussion to my colleagues since we didn't get to go into the growth model.
Okay. Janet Park, I saw you come off mute. What was your
Yes,
experience?
apologies. My computer glitched. It was good. I was the employee, and it was therapeutic to go through on this side of the action and go through and think through, what's in my control, what are next steps, how could that look?
Okay, excellent. Good deal. I think that Christopher Moore should have one of his characters use a grow model in his next book.
The King of San Francisco?
What's that?
The King of San Francisco, one of his characters.
I haven't, is that a new book? I haven't seen it yet. I'll have to go.
No, he's in some of the other books. He kind of weaves his way through some of the books that take place in San Francisco.
Oh, okay. Yeah. So we should have a character that does coaching. Beautiful. Well, the whole point was just give you a taste of the grow model and to have you experience what it's like to be coach and coachee, and to say, okay, this is what it takes to coach somebody. And it's not difficult. It just takes practice to make it smooth. So just remember goals, reality, options, way forward. And remember Michael Bungay Stanier's book, The Coaching Habit, and and some practice, some real practice will help you become a better coach. Any final questions or comments on coaching before we transition into feedback? All right, then let's do the transition. Okay. I have some questions for you before we dive into the content. Why is delivering feedback such an important part of your job? Either come off mute or chat in. I realize some of you are more comfortable chatting in, so that's fine. What would you say about why feedback is so important?
I'd say one thing is that people want to know what they're supposed to do, and they want to know how they're doing compared to the expectations. Feedback's a gift, and that helps.
Yeah, if you can have that feedback as a gift mentality, it helps a lot. Janet Park says it keeps things in the moment. A yearly review should never be a surprise. Yeah, so you should be giving feedback very frequently. And it also enables growth. Absolutely, Judy. Thank you. Are you looking forward to giving negative feedback? And you can see that I presupposed your answer here. So why are you not looking forward to giving negative feedback? Why do we hate doing that? We feel that it will be ill received and could lead to a situation. Yes. It is discomforting. Yes. Frequent, actionable, specific, timely, fast feedback. Yeah. So it is difficult to give hard feedback because we're afraid we're going to hurt someone's feeling. It's going to lead to a situation. It's going to be no fun. So let's talk about how to do it in a way that works better. And so to give feedback, first, check to make sure that this is a good time. So if I'm going to give Janet Park some feedback, I am not going to walk up to Janet in the hallway at work or jump on a Zoom with her and say, hey, Janet, I got some feedback for you. Here we go. Like, that's not helpful. Making sure that this is a good time. Hey, I've got something I want to talk with you about. Is now a good time? That gives the other person some agency. It shows respect for them and what's going on with them. And it allows folks to sort of take charge of the situation for themselves, and it prepares them. It's like, okay, I'm about to hear something. So let me get rid of that. Let me get ready for that. Once the person is ready to hear the feedback, then be objective. So what did Janet say or do? Why was it ineffective or effective? What was the impact of the behavior, and what's the behavioral change you want? Do you want Janet to do something more, less, different? So be specific about it. Okay. Be as objective as you possibly can. And by objective, I mean, like, pretend you videotape this person. Okay. You recorded them on your phone and you're like, okay, this is what was said. This is what was done. This is why it was ineffective, and so on. Then ask the person to paraphrase just to make sure you're on the same page. This goes back to coaching. And then focus on the future, offer suggestions, offer to be helpful. Okay. So don't smack the person down for screwing up and beat them up. Focus on how this person can be better in the future, how you can help them be better in the future, how you want to help them be better in the future. So that's all part of what I'm saying here. Questions, comments? All right. How do you do it? I really love the SBI model, and SBI stands for Situation, Behavior, and Impact. And you can use this for positive feedback or constructive feedback. So it works the same way. All right. So for example, I'm going to walk you through some feedback I gave Sandra, my designer, who made these slides for me. So this is feedback I actually gave her. So Sandra, when you created the slides for this class, you used fantastic design techniques and anticipated what would be most helpful to learners. And I think that resulted in a more robust presentation that will engage learners and keep them from tuning out. Thank you. So situation and behavior are very objective. All right. Again, pretend that you're recording them. The impact is a little more subjective. All right. And that's based on your interpretation of the impact. This also works the same way for constructive feedback. So for example, when you looked at your phone during the meeting and did not participate, you signaled to me and the rest of the team that what we were talking about was not important. And I think that resulted in the team not being able to focus on what needed to get done and slowed us down on achieving our project on time. Works the same. All right.
I think what's important too in that impact is you are saying an I think, not and it resulted, because it might not be. So it's a really important, that subtle I think is really important. I love that you say that I think, because the impact could be something different, right? And you could be wrong. We're all wrong sometimes, but it kind of puts them not on the defensive because it's what you think, and they can say, well, I don't think that. So I think that's a great way to do it.
Yeah, so you're inviting dialogue by just that small semantic difference of I think.
Yeah.
Versus I have a patent on the truth and I know and you are wrong, bad. Like that's not the focus we're taking here. All right. So you now know everything you need to do in order to try the SBI model. Situation, behavior, impact. And the prompts are when you, and I think that resulted in, to Janet's point. All right. So what I would like to do is have you focus on the positive. So go ahead and think about some positive feedback you want to give somebody and use the SBI model to do it. So we'll do, again, small breakouts, just like we did before. We'll mix you up so you're working with slightly different people. This is going to be a shorter activity where we'll give you 5 minutes in the activity total. So 2.5 minutes per manager to deliver the feedback. Okay. So just remember situation, behavior, impact, and everything you need to know is on page 6 of your workbook. Any questions about what I'm asking you to do? All right, Bernie, would you please mix up the breakout rooms?
Yes, sir. Got them shuffled, ready to rock and roll.
All right, let's do it.
Open the rooms now.
Hello, welcome back. Do tell, what was your experience of using the model? Paul, let's start with you. You're front and center with me. I'm looking right at you. So let's start with you.
Okay, sure. I was with Janet and Judy. Janet had an example that I thought really talked about SBI, and I had a similar example where someone was doing something for me, and it could have been a quick and dirty PowerPoint presentation, but they really took it to the next level, elevated it, made it personal to the client's company, and went above and beyond when it really wasn't her job to do it at all. I was asking her as more or less a favor, but she went all the way. I thought the impact was that it really led to a much more engaging training session. The PowerPoint slides were relatable. They were directly linked to the client and not, again, some generic version of a PowerPoint just to impart information. So, and I made
Nice.
sure her supervisor, her boss, knew how well she did. And as I said, May said, "Oh, it was nothing," but it was something.
Okay, that's excellent. Great. So you said you were with one of the Janets and Judy, right?
Yeah, Janet Mancini.
Mancini, yep, thank you.
Okay, excellent. Thank you. Then Akil, you must have been with Janet Park. So tell me about your experience using the model.
Well, Janet hit the nail right on the head. And even though I lost my booklet, I can't figure out where it went on the screen, but trying to model I did all 3 pieces. I think it's a good model. It's a good way to it helped me without even having the book, but remembering what you said the 3 pieces were, it helped me to just move right through them.
Beautiful. That's good to hear. Thank you. Bernie, could you please put the participant guide back in the chat?
Yep, sure will.
Thank you. Okay, excellent. So it sounds like even though you had a tiny amount of time to try this out, that it was useful. So I'm glad to hear that. So again, the participant guide is back in chat. So download that, put it someplace where you can find it later, and you'll have both models available to you. Let's go back into the presentation and start to land this plane. Here we go. Okay. So this all works, as I mentioned before, for positive and corrective feedback. SBI works both ways for positive and corrective feedback. Okay. Some things that I suggest in terms of best practices are whether it's positive or corrective after you've had the conversation. So whether it's via Zoom or via phone or in person, please don't provide feedback via email. So please give feedback in real time. Then recap the feedback in an email. So, hey, Janet, as we discussed, bullet. If you have any questions, please let me know. Thanks, Eric. Send that off to Janet, blind copy yourself, file that in Janet's folder in your email system. And that way you're building the performance review as you go. So, and as long as you're balanced about it, you're going to have lots of good stuff about what Janet did and maybe a couple of things where Janet needs improvement. And you can then easily refer back to that for the performance review. And then something else to consider is understand how your direct reports feel about public praise. Some people love it. Some people hate it. So for example, the nicest thing you could do for me is take me up in front of an all hands in front of your company and say, Eric Gerard rocked it in the last power session. Let's all give Eric a round of applause. Like that would make me really happy. But Janet Park might want to crawl under a table if you dare do that to her. So just ask, how would you like to receive praise? Some people just want a quiet word on the side, a little note, something like that. That makes them feel good. That makes them feel valued. Other people really like the public praise. So you just want to be careful not to accidentally punish somebody by the way you praise them. Questions or comments? I'm looking at chat. Can you talk about why agreement is important before sharing coaching or feedback? So what I meant by that, Judy, is just, is this a good time? So, you know, for lots of reasons, people may not be prepared to receive feedback or coaching. They may have something else going on. They may be on their way to an important meeting. They may be preoccupied and stressed about something else. So you want to make sure that they are psychologically ready to receive what you have to say. And if they're distracted by something else, then the feedback might go down the wrong way. It might make a bad situation worse, or it might bounce off and not soak it at all. So just making sure that this is a good time. And some people can take stuff in the moment. So for example, I could probably walk up to Janet Mancini and say, hey, Janet, I've got something to talk to you about. Is now a good time? Janet would be like, yeah, sure. No problem. And we could have that conversation. But Akil might need to prepare himself for that. And so just being sensitive is another way where you're demonstrating respect for the other person. Does that answer your question? Awesome. Good deal. Cool. Okay. Good deal. Any other questions, comments, or angry outbursts? You're allowed to tell me if this is garbage.
Thank you, Eric. This was very helpful.
I
Nope,
think
we're
you're
not-
spot on. Yeah, I think you're great.
Good deal. Thank you. Well, we're not done
And
yet.
you just raised your eyebrows, by the way, when you said that.
Yeah, but did one go up higher than the other? That's the
Yes,
thing.
your right one did.
Yeah,
okay.
see, that's the thing. They always do that. And I can't control it. They just do it.
You can work on it. Exercise those eyebrows.
I tried. I used to when I was in college. I would do exercises to try to even them out, and it wouldn't work.
No, it's
Anyway.
endearing. I think it's a good distraction. It's all right.
Thank you. Moving on. Let's not get too distracted by my eyebrows. By now, you should be able to use the GROW model, use the SBI model, and in a moment, you will create a plan to provide feedback to your team. So that's what we were talking about. What I'd like to do now is I'm going to have Bernie drop you into random groups, and I want you to take just 2 minutes to exchange contact details so that you can set up a coffee date to talk about what you learned so that the learning doesn't just vanish. Okay. So this is called combating the forgetting curve. There's a thing called the Ebbinghaus forgetting curve, and I want to make sure that it doesn't take over. So please go ahead and take just 2 minutes to exchange contact information so that you can make a coffee date within 1 week, within 7 calendar days to talk about what you learned. Bernie, go ahead.
All right, opening the rooms now.
All right, everybody, welcome back. The next thing I'd like to do is ask for your evaluation, please. And while you are evaluating, I will say a couple of things. So Bernie, if you could drop the SurveyMonkey link into chat, I would like to ask you all to just take a minute to fill out the evaluation. Let me know what you thought of this. And if there's any improvements that we could make, I would love that. But this eval should only take a minute. So we'll just give you 1 minute to do that. And then we have a couple of things to say and we will be done right on time. All right. So as you're doing that, I'll just say, please reach out to me at eric@gerardtrainingsolutions.com if you want to talk more. Please pass the word, let folks know about these free power sessions. And then if you take a look at my website, gerardtrainingsolutions.com, you can access my book there. You can access my podcast, all my newsletters, my blog. So please do check out the website. And then if you liked what you saw here, I have a full-on 4-day course. It's only 12 hours spread over 4 days. That is based on my book, Lead Like a Pro. And here we talk about everything from empathy to delivering through others, performance management, rewards and recognition, change management. So it's a course based on the book. And if you'd like to learn more, please just reach out to me. And with that, I have a final quote by Bill Gates. He says, "We all need people who will give us feedback. That is how we improve." So with that, folks, it is 11 o'clock by my watch. So let's go ahead and call it a day. I will stick around. If you want to chat more, I am happy to stay here. I'm in no hurry. If you want to reach out to me later on, again, Eric at gerardtrainingsolutions.com, I'd be happy to chat with you. But thank you very much, everybody. I really enjoyed this.